You snip a leaf off a plant. No sound, right? Just a soft snip. But inside that leaf, something is happening that looks a lot like a scream. A silent, chemical scream. And other plants can hear it. Let me explain. We think of plants as quiet. They sit there. They photosynthesize. They don't move. They don't make noise. But that's our problem. We think silence means nothing is happening. We think if we can't hear it, it isn't real. But plants are talking all the time. In 2019, a team of scientists from Tel Aviv University published a paper that changed how we think about plant communication. They took tobacco plants and tomato plants. They put them in a soundproof box. Then they cut their stems. And they listened, not with human ears, with sensitive microphones that pick up ultrasonic frequencies. And they heard something. The plants produced clicking sounds. Not many, about 30 to 50 clicks per hour when stressed. When the plant was healthy and untouched, it produced almost nothing. 1 click per hour at most. But the moment you cut it, the clicks started. And not just cutting. Drought stress caused the same reaction. The plant was literally clicking in distress. But here's the thing. Those clicks are at frequencies above 20,000 hertz. Human hearing tops out around 20,000 hertz when we're young, and it gets worse as we age. So most of us can't hear a plant scream, even if we wanted to. But insects can. Some mammals can. And the plant itself is producing these sounds as part of a biological response. Now, the plant isn't screaming in the way we think. It doesn't have a mouth. It doesn't have vocal cords. It doesn't have a brain to feel pain the way we do. But it is doing something that looks an awful lot like a distress signal. And that brings us to the chemical part. When you cut a plant, it releases volatile organic compounds. That's a fancy way of saying airborne chemicals. These chemicals drift through the air. They smell like freshly cut grass to us. But to other plants, they are warning signals. Here's how it works. Let's say a caterpillar starts eating a leaf. The plant detects the damage. It releases a specific chemical cocktail into the air. That cocktail contains compounds like Z-3, hexanyl acetate, and other green leaf volatiles. Those chemicals travel downwind. A neighboring plant picks them up through tiny pores in its leaves called stomata. That neighbor plant then starts producing defensive chemicals. It makes its leaves taste bad. It produces toxins. It even changes its growth pattern to become less palatable. The first plant is, in effect, screaming for help, and the neighbors respond. Scientists call this plant-to-plant communication. It was first demonstrated in the 1980s by researchers like Jack Schultz and Ian Baldwin. They showed that when you damage a plant, undamaged neighboring plants become more resistant to herbivores. The message is chemical. It's airborne, and it works. But the really fascinating part is specificity. Plants don't just scream randomly. They scream differently depending on what is attacking them. Experiments have shown that a plant attacked by a caterpillar releases a different chemical blend than a plant cut with scissors. The chemical signature is specific to the threat, and predators can read that signature. Here's a real example. When a tobacco plant is attacked by hornworm caterpillars, it releases a chemical signal. That signal attracts parasitic wasps. Those wasps fly to the plant, find the caterpillars, and lay their eggs inside them. The caterpillars die. The plant is saved. The plant essentially called a hitman. And the predator, the wasp, learned to recognize the distress signal. It's not just wasps. Mites, beetles, even some birds can read these chemical messages. The plant is not screaming for help in the way a human would, but it is broadcasting a very specific distress signal that other organisms have evolved to intercept. Now, you might be wondering, do plants feel pain? That's a harder question. Pain requires a nervous system. It requires nociceptors, which are specialized nerve cells that detect damage. Plants don't have those, but they do have electrical signals. When you cut a plant, an electrical impulse travels through its tissues. It's similar, in a very rough way, to the signal that travels through your own nerves when you touch something hot. In 1966, a scientist named Cleve Baxter hooked a lie detector to a plant. He claimed the plant reacted when he thought about harming it. That was pseudoscience. It has been debunked. But the underlying phenomenon is real. Plants react to damage. They produce electrical signals. They release chemicals. They warn their neighbors. They even communicate through underground fungal networks, often called the Wood Wide Web, but that's a different story. The key point is this. The plant is not suffering. It's not experiencing emotions. but it is actively responding to injury in a way that benefits its survival. And that response looks, from the outside, a lot like a scream. Let's come back to the clicking sounds. The 2019 study on ultrasonic clicks was controversial. Some scientists argued that the clicks are not a deliberate signal. They might be a purely physical effect. When a plant's water transport system breaks under stress, it can produce popping sounds, similar to the sound of a filling water pipe. So the clicking might be a side effect, not a cry for help. But even if it's a side effect, other organisms can hear it. Moths can hear ultrasonic frequencies. They use them to detect bats. Could they also hear a stressed plant? Possibly. Mice can hear ultrasound. So can many insects. The clicking might act like a homing beacon for predators, or for pollinators, or for pests. And that's the thing about nature. It doesn't care about intention. It cares about function. If a stressed plant clicks, and a moth hears that click and avoids the plant because it knows the plant is damaged, then the click is a signal, whether the plant intended it or not. So do plants scream? Yes, but not in the way you scream. It's a chemical scream, an electrical scream, an ultrasonic scream. It's a scream that other plants hear and respond to. It's a scream that insects use to find a meal or a home. It's a scream that, if we could hear it, would change the way we see the world around us. Let me give you a concrete way to think about this. Next time you walk past a lawn mower, think about the grass. Each blade is being cut. Each cut releases a burst of volatile chemicals. That's the smell of fresh cut grass. It's what we think of as a pleasant scent. But to the grass, it's a distress signal. Every blade is sending a chemical flare into the air, saying, "I'm under attack, get ready." The grass can't run, it can't fight, but it can talk. And the lawn you're standing on is a network of chemical conversations. The grass in your backyard has been screaming at each other for millions of years. We just couldn't hear it. What else are we deaf to? Think about it. We walk through forests. We sit in gardens. We cut flowers for vases. And all that time, the plants are broadcasting. They're clicking an ultrasound. They're releasing chemicals. They're talking to each other through the soil. And we're completely ignorant. But now you know. The next time you snip a stem, you might pause. Not because the plant feels pain, but because it's doing something interesting. It's communicating. It's sending a message. And that message is traveling through the air, through the soil, through the network of life that connects everything in that garden. The plant doesn't have a mouth, but it has a voice. You just have to know how to listen.